guys, so welcome to the first webinar with NotesAlly. So today the main topic of this webinar is that CTTDTI, the formula to propel sales, and our main speaker would be Ranganathan. So before starting, I would like to give you guys a brief introduction about Ranganathan. Ranganathan is a pre-sales manager with close to 11 years of experience in handling pre-sales, performing business analysis, devising strategy, and overseeing delivery. Proficient in planning, acquiring, and handling of customers. He has a flair to understand both the technical as well as the business requirements. He is adept in spearheading thought leadership activities, overseeing million-dollar pursuits, and managing stakeholders and delivering presentations to CXOs or large influential groups. Over the years, he has also acquired time-tested people management, techno-functional and team management skills, and is always eager to tackle new challenges. So I give the stage to Ranganathan. He can, introduce a bit more about himself and also start the webinar.
Thanks, Hemant, for this for that introduction. Good evening. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. So I think Hemant did a brief bit of introduction about me. Just adding to that, so I started my career with TCS. So I was there for almost 10 years. Initially, I was a mainframe developer, then moved to Android development. And then after 5 years of experience, I decided to test the business side of things. And that's when I joined TCS pre-sales team. So there we mainly used to cater to the demand capture and demand creation. And that is where I got to work with for a lot of large deals, primarily in the banking, financial services, and the insurance space. We managed to crack a few $100 million deals, and we also managed to crack the industry's first $1 billion deal. So I was part of those teams as the bid manager. Post my MBA, I also joined a digital transformation company called Pyoda to work on various AI and IoT related projects. And at present, I am at Camo and I'm heading the pre-sales team here. So as of now, it's more on the focus is on more on the tech space. So that being said, let's go to the webinar for today. So I would like to start with the story. So this is about the curious case of the vanilla ice cream. Some of you might have already heard about it. Some of you, it might be new. But I would like, so this story, the main reason why I'm telling this, it has an important outlying message to our topic for today. So let's go into the story. So this happened somewhere in the early 19th century. And there was a guy called, let's say, John in US. So John and his family, they have a weird habit. They used to have ice cream every day after dinner. And every day the flavors used to change. So one day it used to be vanilla, and one day it used to be chocolate, and one day it used to be butterscotch. The flavors kept changing. And what mysteriously happened was, whenever this John used to get vanilla flavor, that day alone, his car had starting problem. He used to observe this for more than 2 weeks, and he decided to write a letter to the Ford company. And this letter was received by the customer service manager. And the letter simply said, "My car hates vanilla ice cream." So the manager got puzzled, but Ford, even in those days, they used to have a very customer-centric culture. And the service manager anyways decided to send a service engineer to check out the problem. And the service engineer checked out the routine of John on a daily basis. And he found out a few things. So one was the flavors, the other flavors such as butterscotch, chocolate, and pista, they were stored in the farther part of the departmental store. So it took some time for the cashier to get it and for him to bill. And by the time the entire process took place, it took some 10 to 15 minutes. So on these days, the car did not have any starting problem. Now, whenever the family brought vanilla flavor being the most sold flavor, it was stored in the front part of the store. So the cashier didn't have to walk much. So all he used to do was just take a few steps and then get the vanilla ice cream and hand it over to John. So in this case, he managed to come back to the car in just 1 or 2 minutes. So he managed to observe about this problem, and he managed to make his conclusion. The problem that his car was facing was vapor lock. So because of the short duration, the car engine did not have enough time to cool down. And because of this only, the starting trouble was there. So the main takeaway from this story is any problems or any complaints that we get, especially when we are in the SaaS business, right? We used to get a lot of crazy complaints from the customer. So any problem or any complaints that we get from the customer, it is important that we give the right merit to it. It is important that we analyze well, and it is important that we get to the root cause. So that is the main reason why I wanted to start with this story. And today in this webinar, I want to take you primarily through the business roadmap, the various stages that are involved, and the key tasks that need to be done in each of the stages. Because the success of winning the large deals or the success of the organization, it all depends on following very simple practices and following it regularly. And in today's webinar, I want to go through each of these phases, and I want to explain the various strategies in each of these phases, which when followed might help your respective organization win more business. So just to walk you through it quickly. So we start, and then there comes the qualification of the opportunity. And after qualification comes the analysis of the opportunity, followed by which we propose a solution. And once we propose a solution, then the prospect is satisfied, happens a negotiation. And finally, once the lead is signed, the nurturing happens. We try to win more deals. We try to get more repeat business from them. And then it's just an ongoing process, right? It starts all over from the beginning again. And then we try to go through the same phases. So this 5 different phases is what constitutes business across any organization, be it a large company like Tata Consulting Services, Infosys, or be it any SaaS startup at the various stages. It might be at the entry level, or it might be at an established level. These are the various phases that constitutes the business roadmap for any organization. So let's deep dive into each of these phases. So we'll start with the qualification part, right? So ideally, this consists of various stages: the strategy, the channels, the data-driven models, the allies, and the brainstorming. These are some of the various different facets that constitute this. So let's start with strategy, right? So when it comes to qualification, that the go-to market strategy that your company has in terms of how the product is going to be positioned, in terms of what geographies are they pursuing, be it US, UK, or is it going to be developing economies, or is it going to be developed economies? Those kind of attributes play an important role in terms of the qualification of the leads for your company. And then in terms of the channels, so there are various channels. So when it comes to the sales channels, so it can be through cold calling. It's a very old age process. It can be through campaigns. So these days companies do a lot of LinkedIn campaigns. They do a lot of email campaigns. So it can be through email campaigns or LinkedIn campaigns. It can be through social media. And then it can also be via the RFPs and tenders. So RFPs and tenders are very important in case you want to go towards the larger deal size, because ideally any deal size less than 100K is only restricted to opportunities via cold calling or via campaigns. So when you want to go for the larger deals, when you want to crack the government deals, RFPs and tenders play a very important role. And then when it comes to the data-driven strategy, there are 3 frameworks that you see here. One is called ANUM, one is called FAINT, and one is called BANT. So I will take you through the expansion of each of this. So Annum is more suited for when the startup, when there's a company, it's a startup, and they are going to procure the service or product from you. So why Annum is more suited when you are selling to the startups is, startup as such, the company would have just formed maybe a few years, and then they might be more focusing on the technology side of things. They might not place a lot of focus on the process and everything. So ideally, when you're trying to sell to startups, this Annum framework will help. Now what does Annum stand for? A stands for authority, N stands for need, U stands for urgency, and M stands for money. So here the importance is placed more on the A and N, A which is meaning authority, and N which is meaning the need. So ideally, when you sell to startups, it is very important that you talk to the people who matter. For example, it might be at a CXO level, or it might be, if it is going to be a no hierarchy company, it at least has to be a head of the department or a VP level. So the authority of the people whom you are talking is very important, because that directly plays a important role towards the award of the opportunity and towards you spending meaningful time as well. So that is on A, authority, and then N is on the need. So this is where we will have to research about the company, go through their website, go through their annual reports, and try to understand what is their business strategy for the financial year, what is that they are looking for now, and try to collect as much details as possible. So when it comes to understanding the need, one of the things that contribute is the maintenance of an effective CRM, right? So whenever a salesperson takes a cold call, or he has a scheduled call with the prospect, and whenever he tries to understand their problem, it is very important that we derive as much information as possible out of the particular stakeholder to whom we are talking to, and that will play a very important role. So the need comes very important, and these are the top two attributes when it comes to the Annum model. And again, compared to the other attributes, the urgency and money also important, because they need to have the urgency to finish with this one quarter or the next quarter. Otherwise, from a business planning perspective, it might be difficult for your company. And last, they should also have the proper budget. So that is what Annum model, and Annum model is mainly a data-driven model towards selling for startups. And next is the Feint model. So Feint model is more when you are a startup, you have a product or service, and the prospect to whom you're talking to, they don't have much idea about your company, because you are a new player on the market. So that is where Feint becomes important. And fund, again here, the importance is given on F and A. F stands for funds. A stands for authority. And then, in this particular case, again, the importance is given on the prospect having a proper budget and also having a proper authority. That is when it becomes important for you to make or close a sale. And then the other attributes such as interest, need, and timing. So compared to the Annum model, the only other thing that you'll see here is interest, because here we also try to gauge in how much interest the prospect has to avail your product or your service. So that becomes very important when you are a startup, when you are a relatively new player, and when you're trying to sell your product, or when you're trying to sell your service. And the last comes the BANT model. So BANT model is ideally suited for companies you're trying to make the big deals, right? For example, when you consider unicorn SaaS companies, like be it a Fresh Sales or be it a Zoho. So this will be ideally suitable for them, where the B stands for the budget and the A stands for the authority. So whatever they are more focused on the closing the large deals. So here the importance is given to more on the budget. So this is ideally suited for SaaS startups that are trying to close the large deals. So these are the various data-driven models in the market, and it is very important to assess where your organization stands now, who's your target selling market, and take a decision accordingly. And then the next one comes the allies. So it is very important that the sales team work very closely with the marketing and the development teams. they need to have a very close relationship with the marketing team, because they are the one who is going to provide you your collaterals, your case studies, your capability decks. It is very important that the sales team has a very good relationship with the marketing team, and then the development team. So marketing team is the one who's going to provide you all the collaterals, the case studies that is important for you to close the deal. So it is very important that you have a good relationship with the marketing team. And you also have to have a good rapport with the development team, because whenever a customer calls, they should be able to come to the call. They should be able to explain the value proposition. They should also be able to explain about the solution. So it is very important that the sales team has a good connect with the marketing and development team. Yeah, so these are the various 5 elements that is very important from a qualification perspective. And lastly, I think it is very important, irrespective of what qualification strategy you take, it is very important that you introspect with the team on a quarterly basis, so that you can discuss with the team on what is working well and what is not working well. You can take in their views, and you can ensure if any changes are needed, the teams can do it. So this is on the qualification side. Let's move to the analysis part. So once you qualified the lead, the next part comes to the analysis stage, after which you propose a solution. So on the analysis part, this is something among all the phases. So this is where I think you will need to spend a lot of time. And so under analysis, I think there are 3 different things. So you have the prospect research, you have the annual reports, and you have you need to have a look at the larger picture. So for each of these attributes, so let's start with prospect research first. And on the prospect research, I want to quickly show you one sample deck, which will help you get more information. Okay, so so this is just a sample deck that was done for one of our prospects. And initially, we start with the stakeholder overview. We try to understand more about the influential stakeholder with whom we are talking. So we try to go through their LinkedIn profile. We try to understand what is his role, what was his role previously, and what are the highlights of this current role, and what are the topics that he might have a strong hold on, and on the topics that he might be interested in. So this is an example of a stakeholder overview. And then we try to go through the annual report of the bank, and we try to understand how was their performance in 2019, whether the performance met expectations, what is their outlook plan for 2020, and what are the focus areas. So in this particular case, their focus areas was more on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and process automation. And then we also try to understand what is their current landscape. So in this particular case, they are already having a chatbot. They are also into neo banking. They have an eKYC platform, and we are also trying to understand what are the strengths of that organization. And then, so this is more on their current offerings. So these are some of the points that we understood. If you look at this overall framework, you try to get as much details as possible about the prospect from the publicly available information. And when you have all this data, this will help you in your preparation when you make your the pitch of your solution, and also when you make the other arguments on the during the contract negotiation stage. So this is just a sample template I wanted to show with you on annual reports. So it is very important that you go through the annual reports of, in most of the cases, it might be available provided they are publicly listed companies. Or if not, you can also try to go through their company overview presentations as well. That will also help you get a good idea. And these are the various sections that are there, right? For example, what are their financials? What are their strategy for this particular financial year? And where have they made the investments in? What is their IT budget? All these things you can get from an annual report, and all of the annual report from the same structure. So once you do for one annual report, I think you can, maybe the first time it might take 30 minutes to 1 hour for you, but from the next time you might be able to complete it in 10 to 15 minutes. So it is important that you go to the annual reports as well. And it is also important that you go through the larger picture. So what you see here is the opportunity overview to begin with. And then we have tried to include what are the levers of digital transformation for that particular company. So we have put topics for various use cases that might be relevant to the company. Quadrant is very important. Whenever you're trying to propose use cases to customers, this quadrant will be important for you. So you have various things such as game changes, such as big bets, such as reconsider and incremental. So that it is mapped on two different coordinates, right? So one is on the ease of implementation, and the other one is on the business impact. So for any organization, game changes will be very important because whatever use case you are proposing, it has a high ease of implementation, and it also has a high business impact as well. So that is called game changes. And in this particular case, whatever use cases we propose, such as the enhancement of the mobile app, or be it an innovative media to educate customers, and then the VR-based safety training for employees. Case. And the next one comes the big bets. So when it comes to big bets, implementation will be low. So here we have proposed various cases such as connected missions, or a big data use case, or a smart LPG use case. These are some of the various use cases that we had proposed to HPCL. And the other one is reconsider and incremental, where it will be low business impact, low ease of implementation, in which case it must be totally avoided. And it will also be low business impact and high ease of implementation. And that is also something that might not be beneficial for the prospect. So this quadrant is very important. And whenever you plan for a prospect, or when you are planning to pitch in some use cases, this might appeal to the business stakeholders, whomever you are talking. And then, so this is just one of the diagrams that we did, which has various stages that an LPG cylinder has to come. And we try to map in various use cases that might be used for the various stages. So based on this, we suggest a lot of use cases to them. This is just a snapshot of what you see, what is a use case description, and which stage it might be useful for the customer. And we also put in a mind map showing a detailed list of features. And we also brought out what are the existing set of features and what are the recommended set of features. So as you can see, the existing customers are marked in blue, and the recommended features are marked in green. And we've also given a neat introduction of it. We put in some mock screens, and we also put in a lot of customer-centric offerings and what will be the benefits for HPCL. And on the architecture side also, we put in guiding principles so that they can plan for their long-term strategy. So in terms of what are our UX offerings, what is the kind of hyper-personalization framework that we'll be building for the company. We also put in a slide on our IoT expertise, our DevOps or cloud expertise, and also what is the methodology and what will be the various Scrum and what will be the various parameters. And important that you have the right capability deck and right case studies. So case studies, ideally, you shouldn't have more than 3-4 slides. So ideally, you should talk about what was the a sentence about the kind of customer. You should talk about the challenges that the customer was facing. You should talk about what solution that you provided to the customer. So this is ideally a proper, and this will help you in a large way towards having a proper impact with the prospect. So we've done with the analysis, and now we go to the solution part. There are 3 different parameters, right? So the first one is you need to build a very compelling value proposition. You do the right analysis. We already discussed about that. And the next one is on the differentiation. So it is very important that you have the right case studies and capability decks, and you have the right team with you. So this is where you convince them on how you will be implementing this, how you will be delivering this, what sort of a support or what sort of a maintenance you have to help convince the customer that in the proper support and maintenance. So that constitutes building a compelling value proposition. And the next one is pricing it right. So when it comes to pricing it right, there are various pricing strategies. There are various pricing models that you need to consider. When it comes to pricing strategies, there are various aspects that we need to consider, right? So be it the pricing model, be it the pricing strategy, be it the psychological pricing tactics. These are various things that you need to consider when you're trying to pitch in your product or service. So when it comes to pricing models, there are close to 7 different models. So one is the flat rate pricing. So it's basically a single product, single pricing, a single fixed set of features. It is easier to sell and communicate. And then the other one is the usage-based pricing, and most of the SaaS companies operate on this model. So the cost directly depending upon the number of users. And then you also have the tiered pricing, where you have like various levels like basic, pro, enterprise, and the features vary and the costs also vary. And you also have the per user pricing, which is again based on the users. But here the only difference is there are various aspects like active user, where though an organization might have got 1,000 licenses from you, only 500 users might have logged in one particular month. So in this particular case, the organization has to be charged only for those 500 users. So that is one model. And you also have the per feature pricing and the freemium business model. So freemium business model is becoming it's very innovative, and it's used by most of the companies. I think Slack, they also try to use this. Initially, they try to offer for free, and once you are convinced, they try to go for the premium model. And next one is the pricing strategy. When it comes to this pricing strategies, so you have various things like penetration pricing. So penetration pricing is more suitable for startups who have just begun and who needs to capture the market, who needs to make a name for themselves. So they need to initially ensure they price it low. Of course, they'll have to break even, but they'll have to ensure they price it low so that the customer can get to see the benefits of their product, and then maybe they can start increasing the prices. So I think Jio is a perfect example for this. They initially started giving for free, and now they have started pricing nominally, and I think it is going very well for them. And then the other product is the captive pricing, where you order a core product for a lower than expected price, and then the supplementary products you charge it for more price. So an example here would be the printers and the whatever inkjets you have, right, for replacing. So ideally they provide all these HP and those companies, they provide the printer at a basic cost, but all the supplementary cost, they try the cartridge and everything, they try to price it more. And the skimming pricing is where similar to penetration, you initially price it low and then you go high. Then you also have prestige pricing. That is what Apple does, because Apple is a brand that is seen more together with high status, right? So that is what is prestige pricing. So free trial pricing is where you offer a free trial for 14 days or 1 month, and then you go to the premium model. And then you also have the cost plus pricing, where into the cost you also add the one-time implementation and one-time data migration cost, and you add it. And then the last one is the value-based pricing, where it is more on the perceived value of the product, similar to what Apple does, rather than what is actually needed. For example, an iPhone 12 might have less features than a Redmi phone, but people still pay more for an iPhone 12 because they're not worried about the features. They were only worried about the brand and what value others perceive in them. So that is on the value-based pricing. And one, we move on to the pricing tactics. And so here you have various strategies like price anchoring, where it is based on a reference value. So ideally, whatever is the cheapest, you keep it in the center, because that is how human mind works, and that is what is appealing to them. And then works the charm pricing. So this is something I personally like it a lot, and I have implemented in my current company as well. So this is backed by data, by studies conducted by Harvard University. So what they tell us, this is called something called the left digit effect. And what happens is, For example, instead of pricing a product, say 3.47, you can even price it as 3.99. Or let's say instead of pricing a product as 3, you can price it as 2.99. Because by default, the brain only looks at the left digit, and instead of 3, if they see it as 2.99, what is going to get registered is only the 2 will get registered in their mind. So naturally, your conversion rates increase. And as you can see in the statistics, so whenever they kept 0.99, the conversion rate was 3.06. But whenever they kept 1, it was only 1.88. So it almost doubled. And you can see similar statistics for the other rates as well. On an average, when you follow this charm pricing, the average increase in sales come to somewhere between 24% to 26%. And then next we have the other options is like odd even pricing. This is similar to charm pricing, except that instead of 9 nines, it might be 3 5s and 7s, or 5 7s and 9s. It might be like that. A product bundle pricing is where you offer several products as a single bundle. This might be applicable for companies that have a lot of offerings under their belt. And you also have other pricing such as high-low pricing. You alternate between high prices and low prices. Trial pricing, you offer the reduced price for a trial period, then you increase. And you also have the center stage effect where all the important prices come in the center. And CLTV is something that is followed by most of the e-commerce companies. So whenever they offer a price to the customer, they try to arrive at a customer lifetime value. For example, if he's a customer for the next 20 years, how much value will he bring to the company? They try to arrive at that value, and based on that, they provide the prices. So these are some of the important tactics that will be very important for your company when you're trying to price it right, and when you're trying to create the maximum impact with your product or service. The last one is making it customer centric. So again, it is very important that you listen first well. It is important that you analyze well. It is important that you qualify well, so that you get in proper understanding about the prospect. You communicate your clear return on investment by pricing it right, by trying to understand the business pain points from a customer perspective. And that is where the case study might work, because when you work via a case study and you explain via a case study, you are not just telling about what you can do. You are telling about what you have already done. So that will go towards a large manner in creating an impact with the company. And it is very important whenever you present a case study, you need to explain what was the challenges that was there for the company, and how did your company manage to solve it, and what was the business benefits to the company. So case study becomes very important. And whenever you are in the SaaS business, there'll be a lot of objections, right? So for example, in our case, being an edutech company, we always get a lot of questions on data privacy. We always get a lot of questions on security aspects. So it is very important that we anticipate this and we have the proper responses ready. So when it comes to data privacy, we might tell something like we are ISO 27001 compliant, and we also get consent from all the students whenever they log in. And we have also done penetration testing, and we have the audit reports done every 1 year as well. So these are some of the sample responses that we provide. So it is very important that you be aware of, you play the devil's advocate, you yourself understand what may be the objections to your product, and you have a proper response in place. So that is on the solution. And when it comes to negotiation, I think there are 4 different aspects here. So first one is on the collaterals. You need to have all the documentation in place, be it member service agreement, be it the statement of work, or be it the non-disclosure agreement, so that whenever customer asks, you can send it immediately in a matter of few minutes or hours without having to make them wait. It is also very important that you invest in softwares like DocuSign, so that the signatures can be done digitally and no scanning and everything is needed. It is important that you have the right references, because whenever you are about to close a deal, I as a customer, I'll be interested to know with whom you have already worked, and I'll be interested to talk to them and understand how well you are at what you do, how well is your solution, how well is your project management, how well is your support. So it is very important that you have the right references. And you should also give the heads up to the prospect, to your customers before the reference call happens, so that they're not caught by surprise. You should also do the right reviews of whatever document they are providing. If you have a finance or a legal team in place, ensure they do a proper review. Usually any SOW goes for 2 or 3 rounds of discussion, and so that it's a win-win for both the parties. Ensure you don't go over the board in order to close the deal. Please ensure that you don't take a risk for your company, and please ensure that you don't go below the break-even point for the company, because that lead might well turn out to be toxic for your company. So one example that I would like to give here, in my previous company, we got a request to work on a AI-related work. So this prospect he's into this fashion side. He wanted to build a convolutional neural network model to go through an image and to understand what is the size, shape, and the color of the shirt or the whatever garment the person is wearing. So the idea was interesting to us, and we had already done some sample models in place, and we tried to use that for the customer. And since we already spent a lot of time, though the customer was very toxic, like initially we offered him $35 billing rate, then he wanted us to come to as low as $9. Since we had already spent a lot of time, we still proceeded with it after getting special permission from the management. But finally, the deal did not get signed because he didn't even agree for $9, and that turned out to be a lot of time wasted for the company. So it is very important that you say no to such deals, so that it doesn't waste your time and energy. And the last one is the signing part. So whenever you sign the deal, ensure you maintain proper versions, so that whenever a conflict comes in the future, it becomes very important, especially on the sales side. And this document will only help you nurture the relationship with the prospect and towards winning a lot of repeat business as well. And then the last part, what we come to is the nurturing stage. So this is where you try to perform a lot of demand capture activities. So when I say demand capture activities, it's about winning repeat business from the customer. So you try to understand what are the, you go to his website, you try to go to his annual report and understand what is he interested in, what else can you offer to them. You try to ask for meetings proactively. So that is the next part I'm coming to, right? So these days, it is very important that you be proactive and you just not be reactive, right? So I'll give you an example from TCS. So there was an insurance provider in US, and he was a customer for us for almost 20 years. And we met all the SLAs. In fact, all our customer satisfaction ratings were like 99% on average. But still, after 20 years, he decided to leave us. Because the reason what he told was, we were only doing what we signed up for. We didn't do anything over it. For example, we didn't do any proactive study to help him take on a digital transformation path, help him go on the AI side, help him pursue the RPA side. We didn't do anything like that. This was the reason he gave us. So these days, it is becoming very critical that you become more proactive rather than reactive, and especially being on the SaaS side, being on the startup stage, it is very important we be proactive with our customers. And we also need to understand both the short-term and long-term goals of the customer, and also work with them accordingly by providing the right solutions. And we also need to be assertive in our communication, right? So when it comes to being assertive, no means no, right? So if you need to take that collective decision. If you feel that lead is not going to work for your company, it is very important that you say no, because if you don't take the decision, like the example that I told with the fashion company, it might turn out very toxic for the company, and it might affect the morale of our employees, and you might also be spending a lot of resources unnecessarily as well. So it is very important that you be assertive. And so last, coming to the title, I think I kept it as I think I kept it as CTT and DTI. Not sure how much of you are curious and you try to find out the details. So I refer to this quote, right? It is very important from a sales perspective. You should never forget to cross your T's and dot your I's. So what it means literally is, it is important that you qualify well. It is important that you analyze well. It is important that you perform all the steps that are needed to ensure you have the right information, so that you dot the you cross your T horizontally, and after the negotiation starts happening, you should go the right depth by following all the documents, by going through them, and you should also nurture it so that it becomes a very successful relationship. This is what I mentioned by that acronym, and I think we've come to the end. And in case if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take it now.
Yes. So I actually have a few questions myself. By the time, other of you guys can write your question in the Q&A so that we can address them as well. So see, my question, Ranganathan, is, on the starting point, like, how you mentioned that you need to qualify the lead first, and then you need to send them and contact them via multiple channels, like various channels, right? So I wanted to understand is that, how do you define a strategy for contacting them? Like, do you choose a specific channel? Let's suppose you contact them only on LinkedIn, or you send them only an email or via cold calling, or do you mix it up? Like, do you use a mixed channel approach?
See, ideally, that's a good question, Hemant. So, see, cold calling these days, not much companies are preferring it, and because of this data restriction and privacy, not many customers are liking it either. So, cold calling, ideally, not many companies are pursuing, but it can be kept as one of the options. So, you have a lot of this softwares like Zoom Info, right? So I think you get to pay like $2,000, $3,000 a year, and per every month you will be able to download 1,000 contacts per license. So when you download a contact, you can get their LinkedIn profile, you can get their phone number, and what I would suggest is don't call them. Go to their LinkedIn profile, try to send them an invite, and send them a personalized invite by on why you are trying to reach them. For example, if you are trying to sell your product, so you might try to understand they might be using a Salesforce CRM at present, and you might tell them that your product will be a good addition, and a few minutes of your time will be able to explain more details. So this way it is more focused. You are also not invading his privacy. In case if he is interested, he will definitely respond to your LinkedIn. He will ask you to set up a call, and you can go on the next steps. And in case if he feels if he is not interested, he is not going to respond to you. So you can probably wait for a few weeks or so. You can mark the lead as maybe on hold, and then you can pursue the other leads. So Zoom Info might be one of the things that where you might help get a lot of details. And using the details that you took, you can also provide other channels, like being LinkedIn campaigns, right? So LinkedIn campaigns ideally come from a marketing department. So they will have to give you a very attractive content, and using the content you provide, you do or you perform focused LinkedIn campaigns. So I would suggest, since you are at an early stage, you can try a combination of this, and depending upon what is working well for you. If a LinkedIn campaign works well, you will be getting a lot of inbound leads. So you can focus on that. And then primarily you can also side by side mix with the Zoom Info kind of cold calling or reaching via LinkedIn as well. You need to pursue a mix of both, and depending on what is working well, maybe on a quarterly once you can introspect, and you can change your strategies if needed.
Okay, got it. So another follow-up question on this only. For example, that you contact someone through LinkedIn or something. So what do you suggest? Do you have a proper follow-up, stages that you do? And like, how long do you follow up so that, maybe there's a time that, you can, or say, get over the deal and, focus on some other thing. Like, do you have a different stages of follow-up, and how many days do you think you should pursue?
See, ideally, if a LinkedIn contact is going to respond to you, the maximum that you can wait is maybe 2 weeks, not more than that. Because for 2 weeks, if he's not responding, unless and until he's on a vacation or he's on a health emergency or something, he should ideally respond to you. But ideally, you can probably wait for 2 weeks, and then you can proceed to the next lead. But even in cases when he responds, he might be on a vacation, or he might tell, I don't have any urgent need at this moment. Or he might ask for just a presentation from you to understand what is your offerings. So in such cases, once that first call is made, you can wait up to one month or 2 months.
Understood.
So that follow-up is also important. By following up at the right time, that also helps you make a good impression with the prospect.
Right. And you also suggest that, if someone has not responded to you at this time, maybe, and if you get over with the deal, we can always try contacting them after, let's say, 3 months or 6 months or something like that.
Yes,
maybe
definitely.
a different channel. Okay.
Yes, so those can still be in your part of your lead list, but you can probably mark them as cold, and then you can try later, probably a few months of time.
Okay, got it. So I think Vivek also has one question. So Vivek has a question that, is there any way to identify which organizations are ready to be early adopters for a SaaS software?
Yeah, so on the trends, right, I think a lot of reports are getting published now, especially on the SaaS being a very hot market with revenue potential and everything. There are various forums, like you have Gartner, you have Everest. So those kind of people, they try to publish articles regularly. So they have these magic quadrant reports where they put in what are the top tools, and then what are the trends that might be interesting. So those kind of details might be very useful. And then what happens is, these Gartner, they conduct a lot of conferences. So for example, let's say there's a Gartner conference on the SaaS trends, and you as a SaaS company, you become a sponsor, right? So ideally they will expect you to minimum sponsor $10,000. So when you become a sponsor, you attend that event, you will get a small slot to talk about your company, and then they will also give you a list of all the attendees who attended the conference as well. So that can also be added to your lead list, and you can pursue them.
Got it. So so I would really like to thank you, Ranganathan, for explaining what CTTDTI is. We were actually, everyone of us was curious, because I also, being from the sales, I didn't hear this concept earlier, but you cleared it out in a very good way. And you also explained the entire stage of how it starts from prospecting to how do you actually go to and close it. Right. So it was really insightful for me also, and for, I guess, for others as well. So thank you again for speaking today with us.
Sure, Hemant. Thanks for your time today, guys. Hope this was useful to you. And in case if you have any doubts, you can feel free to reach out to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And thank
you, guys. Bye. Good evening.
Thank you.